All right, what's going on, everybody? Last time I left you, we were sanding these panels right at my house. So these panels have all been, I've got two of them, remember, there's two of these that are the same. Okay. So the panels have been sanded. They're here in the booth. We're getting ready to shoot a base coat on them. What we're going to do is shoot a silver base. I'll probably do a silver base on both of them, and I'll probably do a flake on both of them. The one that's going to be the custom panel, I don't know what's going to go on it yet. The other one will be the traditional graphics with the lace and the fish scales and all that. So we'll do that like we do in class with a silver base, a flake on top, and then a clear. And I'll walk you through the steps that are required for that. For right now, I just want to focus on one of the panels. Okay, so I'll put this to the side. Since both of the panels are the same as far as the starting point, I'll just use the same footage for both panels for both series, either the custom panel or the old school traditional one. Right? So it's been sanded, it's ready to go. I want to clean it. So again, wax and grease remover we're using, a couple of clean paper towels. Now, when we're priming them, typically we have them hanging up, right? So we can prime both sides. Once we're painting, we're only painting one side at a time typically. The other side would be masked up with paper to protect it. So I typically lay them down. This way we have some practice shooting in the horizontal position. And when we're doing the skateboard, we're typically hanging them in a vertical position. So you get a little bit of practice doing both different ways, right? So first of all, I just want to put a little bit of grease and wax remover, wipe it down, and get it ready for the spraying. So a little bit of wax and grease remover. Wipe it down and make sure you wipe it thoroughly. You want to pick up any grease and oil and stuff that may have come from our hands from touching it. And you'll notice I'm wearing latex gloves to protect myself. And also to keep oils and contaminants from my skin getting on the panel. Once it's clean, with any of these panels, once it's clean, don't touch it with bare hands. Any of the oils, grease and stuff from your hands will interfere with the adhesion. You might have some blistering or cracking or peeling where there's grease. So you want to make sure you keep it clean and don't touch it. All right? So next we'll come in. I'll tack rag it. I'll tack it with a tack rag, and I'll explain that to get off any dust. And we'll start shooting silver base. And we'll probably do 3 to 4 coats of silver base. Basically, it depends on how well it covers. That kind of determines how many coats we're going to be putting on. And you want to put on enough base coat to cover whatever you're putting it over. So I want to make sure I cover up the primer. I got a little bit of bare metal showing through. I'll put a little bit of etch prime on that maybe, and we'll get going. All right. So next time we come back, we'll be getting ready to paint. All right, we're back here in the paint room. I'm getting ready to mix up a little bit of silver for the panels, the flat panels. This will be the same video for both panels since they start out the same, and I'll be doing the same silver and flake on both of them. So I might as well use the same video. So we're going to shoot a little bit of silver first. I want to show you how I mix it up here. It's the same as like for the skateboard videos that I'm doing also. PPS, the outer liner. I got a new liner right here to go in there. I'm starting with just a straight toner. These are the solvent-based shop line. This is J71. It's just a silver. And I'm using this is the clear, it's a base coat binder. It's kind of like a clear base coat, no color in it. But this turns it into a base coat so it dries quickly and it can be clear coated, okay? So the 136 and the 71, I use equal parts. So I'm just using one of the scales on the cups here. I'll just use the generic scale with no ounces or anything, it's just numbers. So whatever I put in of the silver, I want to put in the same amount of the clear, the base coat binder. Okay, so I'm going to do, let's do 3. Let's try 3 of silver. Okay, and we'll add 3 more of clear. That'll give us 6 total. 3 plus 3 equals 6. All right, and then whatever I have in there of the base coat, I'm going to double it with reducer. Okay, so so I'm up to 6 with the base coat, the binder, and the toner together, and I'm going to double that with the reducer. So I'm going to add. So we're up to 6. I'm going to add up to 12 with reducer. Okay, so it's 1-to-1 mixing ratio, equal parts. And I'm using a slow reducer. It's kind of hot out today. You don't want to use too fast of a drying reducer on a hot day. It'll go on kind of grainy and sandy because it dries too quickly. It doesn't have time to level out. Okay, so slow it down with some slow reducer if you have to. Let's see, where am I at? Trying to find my scale here. All right, see it? So I'm just doubling it. I'm going up to 12. All right. Stir that up. And it's ready to go. We're using the DeVilbiss Techna. Works really nice. This is a 1.4 setup on the tip. So make sure you get that base coat mixed up really good. Put your lid on there. Strainer's still in there. Pop it down and it's ready to go. All right, so next you'll see me, I'll be in the booth spraying some silver on the panels. All right, we are back here in the spray booth. We're getting ready to shoot a little bit of base coat on this panel. Okay, so we start out, after it's done being primed, it's been sanded, it's been cleaned. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is tack it off with a tack rag and then start shooting the silver base. A couple of things to think about. Okay, so here's the gun setup we're using. Again, it's the DeVilbiss Techna 1.4 tip. We got the silver solvent base shop line in there. I'm going to be shooting at about probably around close to 30 pounds. It seemed like it was working best at that. Maybe 25 to 30 pounds, I would say, somewhere in there. And one thing you want to watch out for, well, a couple things you want to watch out for. This is laying down now, it's not hanging up in front of you now. So you got to kind of modify your technique a little bit when you're spraying. When you're standing up spraying like this, it's not too difficult. But now you got to shoot in a horizontal position, right? So it's a little more awkward. But what you have to do is you have to keep the head of the spray gun parallel to whatever you're spraying. Okay? You don't want to tip it, you want to keep it straight. Okay? If you tip it, you're going to end up with a heavy and light, so it's going to leave streaks. Wherever it's heavy, wherever it's closest to the panel, it'll be heavy and it'll be lighter on the other side. Alright? So you want to make sure it's nice and even. The other thing you want to watch out for is your distance. 8 inches or so seems to work pretty good. About that distance works fine. You want to make sure you're starting off the panel and finishing off the panel. Okay, so same as the primer when it's hanging up, only this way it's laying down. So you got to stretch a little bit to get to the far side, and then work your way towards yourself. Okay, so you'll notice I'm starting kind of off the panel. A lot of it'll be going off, but then as I move forward towards myself, you'll start seeing how I overlap. So I'm only moving a little bit at a time to make sure I get my overlap. I'm looking for about a 50% overlap, which means that I'm trying to cover up half of the last pass I just put on there. Okay, so let me get this tacked off. I'll turn the booth on and start spraying. So a tack rag, this is just a sticky cloth that has a resin in there, and what it does is it helps to pick up any dust that might have landed on your panel just from sitting around after you cleaned it, or it picks up any lint that might be left over from the towels that we used to clean it, right? So with this, light pressure, you don't want to push down too hard. If you push too hard, then the resins will stick to the panel, and that could get in between the paint and whatever you've got on there, and it can pop off, it could delaminate. Okay, so you don't want to transfer that resin onto your panel. And you can see how much dirt we already picked up off of there, just from it sitting against the wall for a few minutes. All right, so I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing until I'm happy with the way it's coming out. Came off a lot cleaner. Now the other thing is, don't use these rags with solvent. Don't use these to clean the panel. It doesn't work. All the solvent does is it takes all the resin off of this and puts it on your panel. Defeats the purpose, okay? So only use these for tacking. Don't add any solvents to them. Don't use them as wiping cloths for cleaning panels from solvent. This is only for tacking right before you spray, okay? And again, I don't use glasses when I'm spraying. So it's plugged in. Let me turn the booth on. We're at about 30 pounds of pressure. So we're probably going to end up doing 3 coats on this. But basically, you put it on until it's cooked. Check this out. All right, here we go. Base coat, you do not want to put it on too heavy, but you don't want to put it on too light. You want to kind of find a happy medium. If it goes on too light, it dries too quickly, and you can actually delaminate from the primer because it's too dry. Okay, you have a dry layer in between there. If it goes on too heavy, it takes longer to dry. It can also run if it's on a vertical surface, or it can get fish eyes and contaminants that push the paint around and kind of mottle it. Okay, we don't want that either. So we want a nice and even finish. Now as it goes on, it looks a little bit blotchy, but as it dries, it should even out, okay? But you do not want to put on the next coat until the first coat is dry, okay? So each coat should be completely dry, and it'll go from shiny to a flat finish, no shine. Once it goes flat, you're ready for the next coat, okay? So this is a hot day, so it's drying pretty quickly, excuse me. And I'm already seeing it drying up here. It's still a little bit wet down here. So we'll give it a minute to dry, and then we'll put on our second coat, and we'll do the same thing for the third coat, okay? Now you can force this a little bit with just some air. I don't recommend it all the time. It's usually best to let it dry on its own. It gives it a chance to level out, flatten out, and orient the metallics a little bit. So sometimes it's not good to dry it too quick. For right here, I'll try it. I'm just pulling the trigger, so just air comes out, there's no material, and I'm just floating around the surface. And again, I'm keeping a distance. I don't want to get too close. With wet paint, the air pressure will blow the paint around. Okay, we don't want that. Okay, so it didn't take much to dry it, right? So I'm ready for the second coat, same as the first. Again, looking like it's covered pretty well. 2 coats covered, but I always put on 1 extra coat just as a little bit of insurance, right? It might look fine in here, but when you take it outside, the sun might shine through it and you'll be able to see underneath. You'll be able to see maybe some scratches or some metal or something underneath that's a different color. So I always put on 1 extra coat when I think it's done, okay? So same thing, I want to make sure this completely dries. I can force it a little bit with some air. Now this technique only works with base coats. It doesn't work with primers. It doesn't work with clears. You can only blow dry base coats. And usually you would let it sit maybe 5-10 minutes in between coats. It's hot today. I'm trying to force it a little bit. Okay, so I think 1 more coat and we should be good. At this point though, if I have any dirt or any little problems, now would be the time to fix it before we put on our final coats, okay? This one's gonna look pretty good. Again, if you're in here and it's dirty, and your panel gets some dirt on it, you can always sand it a little bit and continue putting color on, okay? But that's only with base coat. You can't do that with clear, okay? You can't do that with primer. Only with base coat can you stop, sand it a little bit while it's dry, and then respray, okay? This one's looking decent. Let's do 1 more coat, exactly the same. 18 pounds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my distance, and I'm just going to kind of dust it on. This is optional, it's not always necessary, but sometimes to get the metallics looking right, you have to do a little bit of a control coat, all right? It works best with the slow reducer because it kind of melts in. If you're using a fast reducer, typically it doesn't dry that well. It dries too quick, so it doesn't have time to fix the metallics, all right? So a slow reducer, dusting it on a little bit. I'm using full trigger, the only thing I changed was the air pressure, okay? Looking decent, we'll let this dry. And then next up is flavor, all right?